What's up, party people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. This week's shows, I will be at the Old Post Barbecue in Russellville, Arkansas for the Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam from 6 until 9 p.m. Yeah, good times, family fun. Also, on Friday night, I will be at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas from 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. Kind of excited about that. Now, the Old Post Barbecue is family friendly from 6 to 9 Thursday night. Old Post Barbecue, Russellville, Arkansas. And that's, family friendly. And then the Rab is over 21. They have a full bar, kitchens open, pool tables. Pool tournament on Friday nights. So if you want to try to make some money on a Friday night, I encourage you to check out the Rab. Friday night, 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. Ooh, today on the program, I have Sharmin Eslynne Smith. Who's Sharmin Eslynne Smith? What? You're going to find out in the next few minutes, so stick around for that. Also, on Saturday, I have a wedding. Yeah, the weddings are back, baby. I think I have 3, maybe 4 a month for the next few months. So I'm kind of stoked. Saturdays are made for weddings and parties and corporate events and all kinds of things. I hope everybody's doing okay out there. I got my shot. So now that the CDC says I can go out and play, I'm going out to play. I got my shot. All right, party people, let's get into it with Sharmin Eslynne Smith. Now, I got her on the Skype, so if you're listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to check out the video version, youtube.com/user/KeysDAN, or just go to YouTube and look up KeysDAN. There'll be 3 different YouTube pages. It's the one with the Radio What logo. That's the one that I use for my podcasting and radio stuff. Yeah, so do that. All right, let's get into it. Skyping Sharmin Eslynne Smith now. Well, that was easy.
Was it? Did it work? Are we all connected? Can you hear me?
Oh, you're fantastic. You're absolutely connected. Look at that big, bright smile that I'm looking at on my screen here, making my day all better. Oh, my goodness.
How are you doing?
Oh, so good. Sharmin Smith. Well, I see another name. It's like Eslynne. What does Eslynne mean? What does Eslynne
my
mean?
Pseudonym that I published the book under originally.
Well, all right. Well, underneath your little name and your broadcast on the broadcast feed, it's got your name. I know you see it backwards for some reason. It always comes out forwards when I put it up on the YouTube. But, I'm excited. I'm stoked. I know that Katerina Tehedor put us together. And
yes.
How did you get involved with her? Let's start off with a little shout out for her anyway.
Right. She's spectacular. My marketing lady who makes my Facebook and my Instagram professional looking. I appreciate her so much. I found her through LinkedIn, or she found me through LinkedIn. I'm not exactly sure how the connection happened, but LinkedIn is a magical land.
Yeah, she's somewhat of a go-getter. I've had her on the podcast before. I met her when she was doing cosplaying. I get to do some of the cos cons around Arkansas, and I did some in Florida, but I never met her in the Florida ones that I can remember. But the ones that I've done here in Arkansas, I think she was at 1 or maybe 2 of them, dressed like Wonder Woman or Batman. But that's a whole nother story.
Right, she's tried to get me to come down and dress up in costumes with her.
Well, have you ever dressed up in a costume before?
I mean, for Halloween, but I haven't done the cosplay thing yet. I have been to events with my daughter, but my responsibility has always been to hold her stuff so people can take pictures of her while she looks fabulous. That is, as a parent of a cosplayer, that has been my role.
So are you a parent of a cosplayer? You have a
I am
daughter.
a parent of a cosplayer, absolutely.
How old a girl is she?
She's 16.
16. And she's been cosplaying for a while?
Yeah, a couple of years now. She's got all kinds of wigs and clothes and makeup, and her last one of my favorites was Ursula. It was quite the event, but she made the costume by hand and figured out the paint, and it was a whole event.
I'm impressed by them. I'm not much of a cosplayer myself. I have an original cosplay. It's I put on a doctor's white coat and I wear a shirt that has Radio What, a What logo on it, and I'll put some big giant hair, and that's Dr. What. Usually when I'm doing a cosplay, I end up playing the music there. I DJ for them and MC and hand out microphones to the various individuals that show up. But Sharmin Smith, and I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Sharmin Smith.
No, you are, absolutely. Good job.
Okay, and go ahead. Have you owned the Sharmin jokes as you've grown up?
I couldn't possibly change my name because I can't walk away from the one-liners. Like I wouldn't even know where to begin. I am full of it. I mean, literally, my eyes are brown. I'm Sharmin. I'm here to clean up the shit in DC for sure. This last year with the pandemic and everybody screaming for Sharmin, it was like, I'm here.
Yeah, there's only one. The biggest one is don't squeeze the Sharmin.
Right. It's so funny. People ask me if I got teased a lot when I was a kid because my name, and I did, but I would go back to that in a second. For anything over dealing with grown men after I turned 18, every time I turned around, some man was grabbing me to see if I was squeezably soft, and it was like, just keep your hands to yourself.
Inside boys are always 12-year-old boys.
I mean, really, it is out of control. Just grab them whenever you see them, and they're pretty. Things been going on a long time.
I'm living proof, okay? Yes, you're going to have the thought to see this pretty thing in front of you, and you're going to think, well, maybe I could touch that. No, don't do it.
You really should not be touching it. Don't just reach out and grab it.
Don't.
It's not the way that's supposed to work.
Permission.
You can look, but you cannot touch. There used to be some manners, some rules around here.
That is
Let's
correct.
all act like our mommy taught us some manners.
That's a sense of decorum. That's how we live in a society. But let's go back. Sharmin Smith. Give the people an idea of who you are.
Who am I? So I'm an author of the book Taming the Tida. It's a fictional life story about politics, religion, and a reality TV show. I self-published January of 2015, a full 6 months before Trump announced his campaign. And it kind of looks like some of the stuff I wrote played out just in a really weird way. And the book spans 40 years. So most people want to know what I wrote about 2024, and we'll see. It's a strange story that has encompassed my whole life, and it spurred a run for office, which went nowhere and really just caused me more trouble than it was worth. But it keeps me busy and has certainly given me multiple more books to write, and I do enjoy podcasts, but it has been a roller coaster of a ride, to say the least.
Well, it sounds like you live in the DC area. Have you always been involved in politics? Are you in the DC area?
I'm in Florida.
Florida, okay.
Right? Where else would a story like this come from? Come on now.
I'm from Miami, born and raised in Miami,
Right.
Florida, and the Keys, KeysDAN, Florida Keys. My mom and grandma are still down there in Key Largo saying, come home, son, come home. And I haven't been home.
Too.
Oh, my goodness, I haven't been home since 2009. I got here to Arkansas. Whew. So Taming the Tida, okay.
Tida. Tida.
Well, okay.
It's a
Explain.
It's a Hawaiian word for an aggressive female personality, right? That will fight you, right? Like every woman I have ever met on the planet, no matter where or who or what religion, every female seems to embody this personality. And the Hawaiian word for it is tida. And I like to say that Shakespeare proved that he could tame a shrew, and I like to prove that you don't tame a tida will tame you, right? I see with the rise of women's rights and movements and speaking their mind and speaking up for themselves, I see this as the time for the tida. I want people to just let their tidas loose and use their voice and speak up for themselves and whatever that they believe that they should be fighting for. We're ready for a big change, and the women's movement is been coming a long time. We've been talking about it, but now more than ever in history is the best time to be alive as a woman.
Well, give the people the avenues of you, because if I'm just looking at the low hanging fruit is to look at your Sharmin Eslynne Smith Facebook page, and it says survivor, author, mom, citizen, proud advocate for human rights and fighting for the unheard. Why? What drew you to this? Is this something that's always been? Have you been the bossy girl in school?
Right. I was a mouth from early on, right? The name Sharmin has really formed me who I am. I am named after a country song from the 60s, just itching for a remake. And I remember the first day of kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher calling out every name she could possibly think of that started with an S that was not Sharmin. And when I finally stood up and said Sharmin, she said, "You have to change your name, pick another name." And I said, "No." She said, "What's your middle name? We're going to call you by your middle name." And no, you can't. I'm named after a country song. I've got this whole deal. I didn't even know about the toilet paper.
Yeah, that is absolutely on her that she did not want to call you Sharmin.
And I drew a line in the sand that day, and I said, "No, my name is Sharmin, and that's all there is to it." And I owned it from then on out, and all the trouble that came with it. And it's been a ride. It's been hilarious. Some of it's funny, some of it's not. Some of it I use to make fun of other people, but you just.
Well, that's good that you've owned it. Okay, some people can be hurt by bullying.
I can take it, but I can dish it out too.
That is correct. That's you're giving people gems. This primarily is a learning podcast, and I'm learning from you, Sharmin Smith. Should I call you Eslynne at some point? Is that your author name, or do you write under Sharmin Smith, or is it always Eslynne?
I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it with the fiction stories going forward, or if I'm just going to figure out how to brand it all into Sharmin. Sharmin's never going away, for sure. It's such a part of me, and I have so much fun with it, really. Sharmin, just like the toilet paper, only with an S. I'm smarter, I'm stronger, I smell better than the TP, and I will clean up DC. I've got a long list of one-liners at this point. There's just...
No, I get it. I get it completely. But it's hard to brand yourself if you're going to keep changing your name. I remember, reading Stephen King novels, and then he came up with Richard Bachman. I went, why? Why did you do that? So he could write. I guess he wrote Running Man, and it wasn't so much of a scary novel like his usual genre. He went outside of his usual genre and changed his name. But for branding's sake, please, Sharmin, stick with the one name, or Sharmin Eslynne, either way, or Sharmin Eslynne Smith.
Right. Just publishing under a pseudonym was a mistake for me, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard.
But it's a learning experience. There's things you do along the way. We're like, I really should have done that one. That one didn't work out so well for me.
Well, I guess your marketer would definitely help you in that aspect. KeysDAN came from the Florida Keys. Here I am in Arkansas, still stuck with that moniker because there's still 500,000 pages on my website. And yes, at least 500,000 pages on my website with KeysDAN on there. So I'm not changing now. I'm not going back. I'll stay with it.
No, you can't. You're stuck. You're that forever.
And I'm hanging with the Sharmin. When we talked about this a little earlier, you said you were going to dress up. So for anybody that's listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to check out the video version. She got all dressed up. She got the flowers. She got the big smile.
We said there's going to be videos. I got hair and makeup ready. I put a dress on. I got ready.
It's all self-done, or did the 16-year-old help you out on that one?
Nope, this is all me.
What? She's a makeup artist as well.
Right, I've been doing this for a couple of decades now.
Put that on your list of on your resume. Perfect. I'm class of '86. I know. Women for some reason it's historically never want to give up their age, but class of '86. Once I turned 50, I said, nah, I'm 50.
No, I embrace it. I'm 45. I'm
perfect.
A Gen Xer. Right. We're so appreciated for the first time. Really, everybody loves us. We were so much cooler in the 90s.
Oh, my goodness.
I saw a post the other day. Somebody asked if you would go back to high school again. God, if I could do it in the 80s and 90s, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, send me back right now.
no, whenever I'm DJing a party for somebody, I always ask the guest of honor, if they don't give me a list beforehand, I say, what year did you graduate high school? And usually that's around the music that they're going to want to listen to for
Right.
almost the whole night. Maybe they'll go up or down, but if you graduated in 90, bam, that's what you want to hear. 90. You want to hear Can't Touch This. You want to hear Ice Ice Baby. You want to hear everything around that time, and maybe some of some of the rap, before it got dirty, or maybe after.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about. When I was a kid, they banned Two Live Crew, and I lived in Idaho, but I had a bootleg tape cassette.
I was living in Fort Lauderdale at the time. I remember Sheriff Nick Navarro saying, "Oh, if you start singing that stuff, we're gonna take you." They took him right out. We saw it on the news the next day. I didn't get to go to that concert, but I think I was still in high school. I must have been still in high school, but they were banned in the USA. Or maybe it was
in
just
middle
after high
school.
Maybe it was just after high school. Maybe
Yeah.
somewhere around there. But I didn't get to go to that concert.
Those years melt together.
Oh my goodness, yeah, the dog
Little.
years, right? From 9th to 12th grade, you do so much growing, so much learning. But what did you do in your high school days in Idaho?
My high school days, I was on my dance team all 4 years. That was the best part of my high school education. If it wouldn't have been for dance team, I wouldn't have had a reason to go to school. They made me get good grades too, so I could keep coming back to the dance team. That was the only thing that was there for me. It was a social event for me. And there was people, and I talked to them, and they made me do this work and this homework, and I showed up every day, and there was food in the vending machine, and thank God for cheap lunches.
Well,
Right.
that's a great thing. If you want extracurricular activities, you got to work for it, and that's your
Right.
job, is to get the good grades. So yeah, if I wanted to play football or swim, I had to get the good grades, or else I was kicked off the team. So
That was it.
But that is a good incentive. But what did you get from dancing? Do you still have a love for dance? Do you get to do that on the weekends?
Absolutely. A lifelong love of dance and the appreciation of being able to release your energy through movement. And what I got from the class, from being on the dance team, because you had a class that you had to attend every day. It was part of your curriculum, and you had to perform for half times of football and basketball teams, and we had annual competitions, regional throughout several states, and the teamwork that I learned, and a lot of leadership skills. You got a lot of different people doing a lot of different things. You got to get them all to do the same thing at the same time, make it look good and smile while they're at it. There's a lot to be said for morale. There's a lot to be said for the way you just learn to communicate with people, and sharing stories through dance is fun, and it can bond us. And that's definitely one of the better things about high school for me. I would do it again in a second.
See, you're giving me gems on once again. The dance team performs at halftimes. I'm thinking dance team, you're learning, ballet or tap or any, jazz or Fosse, that kind of dancing.
Right.
But you're out there right alongside the cheerleaders. What's the difference between a cheerleader and a dance team member?
Well, the cheerleaders are performing up along the benches throughout the game. They're cheering. They're getting people to participate in the cheers. They're there throughout the entire game. As a dance team, we really just go out onto the field during halftime and do our little song and dance. We don't thank somebody else. The music comes from somewhere else, and we do our little routine, and then we leave, and then we go back into the stands. But the cheerleaders continue to do their performance throughout the entire game. They lead the crowd. Their morale boosts. It's two different types of performing.
Yeah, but you still have to have a uniform, and you have to have a set,
Yes.
a setup. You have to have a team. You learn
Yes.
teamwork.
Yep.
How to be a team player. But did you learn any of the other dances as well, the ballet and the tap and the jazz and all that, or is that something different?
I've taken some ballet lessons and some tap lessons and some ballroom lessons and a bunch of different things. I'm attending an aerial studio now where I do lyra hoop and split silks and roller pole and all kinds of different things. You just never know where it's going to go for me.
But why, Sharmin? Why are you doing all these things? Is this fun? Are you competing, or is this
No, we're
something?
definitely not competing. I'm definitely not good enough to compete. Nobody would want to see this for real. Like mostly just hurting myself.
Oh, but
Bonding
is this
with people and having fun and exercise and moving your body and expression in different ways. And the lyra and the hoop is really nice because it's a lot of upper body strength where you lift yourself and you pull yourself up a lot.
What's a lyra?
It's a big metal hoop that they suspend from the ceiling. Think like a big hula hoop, only it's metal and solid, and it's suspended from the ceiling, and you pull yourself up on it and spin around and flip and try not to flip out of it. And it's, it's a lot of fun.
Like a swing,
really
like something that Pink would use in her music videos.
For sure.
That's excellent. You see, that's something that carried on.
That's straight out of one of Pink's music videos, for sure. The split silks with the two different straps of material that you pull yourself up in and twist yourself around in, and that's for sure.
That has got to be incredibly fun and incredibly energetic and good exercise. Okay,
yeah,
that's a way to stay in shape. Yeah, that's a good, a good, interesting way to stay in shape. I mean, yes, you could pick up stuff and put it back down, pick up stuff and put it back down, but using all these muscles that you, I'm sure using core muscles and okay, so the dance carried with you all the way till today. What else did you do in school with the mouth that you claim to have had?
Tick off teachers. I have a recurring nightmare about having to go back to high school and retake my speech and debate class because of how much my teacher despised me in that class. But I enjoyed my high school experience. I had a lot of fun. I had a job most of the time that I was in school. I made a lot of friends, and I would like to think I had just a good, wholesome grow up in Idaho in the middle of nowhere along the Snake River experience. There was rodeos, right? There was rodeos, cowboys. It was a very different experience. But I did my elementary school in the northern suburbs of Chicago. My dad was a Navy company commander pushing recruits through boot camp out of Great Lakes.
Great mistakes.
Great mistakes.
My brother went there.
Yeah, a lot of people have a story from there. I got a couple too.
Well, hit me with one or two.
Goodness gracious. Well, I mean, like my dad retired he retired in 1980 from Great Lakes, pushing recruits through boot camp for the last 2 years of his military career. But it was also when the Bears were building their practice field after having just built Soldier Field, and they were practicing at the naval base at their football field during the week. So us military brats that lived in housing would go and hang out at the football field and watch the Bears practice. And that was one of my best memories. I really enjoyed that.
Well, now say it right. You were hanging out with the Bears.
The Bears.
That's fantastic. That's a nice childhood right there.
Always a Bears fan for sure.
I suspect. I'm still a Doll fan, and I don't even know who the quarterback is. My quarterback is Bob Greasy, and Don Shula is the coach. And then and I guess
we're like arch rivals.
And then
why? Why? You know why we don't like each other?
Why?
Because you have the record.
Oh,
the record. The Dolphins have the record.
Was it 72 undefeated? Yeah.
The only team to get close to it was the Bears in '86, and the only team they lost to was the Dolphins.
Well, and then they did the Bears shuffle. The shuffle.
Right. They did their shuffle.
That was a good time.
They never won another ring again.
Close. So close. All right. So yeah, Chicago, man. See, I've never been hardly north of the Mason-Dixon. I didn't get a chance to get up to Chicago when my brother was there, but he said it was cold and it was fun. Chicago, the town itself, but you being in elementary school, you didn't experience a lot of the city, the nightlife as an adult, or did you ever go back to Chicago as an adult?
Well, I still have family in the northern suburbs and in Kenosha. Kenosha was so big this last year, and that was real painful for me. My family was there. It was kind of scary. But I
Wait,
didn't
say
experience
again.
too much.
What happened to Kenosha?
Kenosha was one of the flashpoints this last summer over the riots and protests. So that was real. It was awful close to home,
I
right?
suspect, yeah. I mean,
It was really
I've heard the name Kenosha before, so it seems like a very popular city with entertainers, comedians in particular. Oh, I go to Kenosha, or maybe it's just because the name has those K sounds. It's a great city name, Kenosha. But what
well.
happened? Continue.
Well, it was real special to me personally. My mother and my sister both passed away in Kenosha. They had the same hospice nurse, 10 years apart, same hospice nurse. It's a very small community where the people are really kind, and it really broke my heart to see how scary it got there when they started calling for it to be the start of the Second Civil War. Kenosha is not the center for that.
No,
So
no. But hey, so small town life or big city life? What's the place for you, Sharmin?
small town life,
Small town.
you know,
See,
it's
I
hard to
moved from
beat.
Miami to Conway, Arkansas, and even though there's 52,000 people, to me it's a teeny tiny town because everybody knows everybody. Either I know them
Right.
or I know somebody that knows them, and it was really easy to integrate. Starting my life over at 40 years old, but that's a whole nother story. people
Right.
people get little tidbits as I have these conversations with people. But Charmin, you got from Chicago. Your dad retired in '80 from the Navy,
Mhm.
and then off to Idaho. Why?
We lived in the northern suburbs of Round Lake Beach until '86. My parents got divorced, and my mother took us home to her family, who was in Idaho. And that's where I did junior high and high school was in is Payette, Idaho, on the Oregon coast.
So that
Right,
was much more small town life from what you said. You
right.
said, yeah,
You
and
want to talk about a culture shock, right?
yeah.
Yeah, we're big time culture shock. There was more people on the um, Kennedy naval carrier than there were in the town I lived in Idaho.
I believe you. I believe you.
Yeah.
But
When you're a military brat, you make those weird little connections like that, right? Like,
correct, correct.
right,
Population 577. Salute. But
right.
I remember that on Hee Haw. But you were saying that you had jobs all through high school, and that is one thing is once you get to 15, 16. Get a job, even if it's dishwashing or cleaning up trash or something. But I'm thinking of little Charmin. This is in my head when you said that. Little Charmin at the Tasty Freeze, maybe at the local Dairy Queen, spooning out scoops of ice cream. Was that the job you had?
Well,
What was your high school job?
in high school, my job was at Wendy's. I worked the drive-through mostly, but before I was 16 and able to get a real job, I had a bunch of different jobs. Right, I was always making money as a kid, whether I was pushing a lawnmower or prodding for worms. Do you know how to prod for worms?
I must have dug up a worm at one point, but
Yeah, that's not how you do it, though.
give me the explanation of the prodding for worms.
So it's an electrical device, right? You think like a Christmas light, a Christmas strand of light, right? Only instead of a light for Christmas lights, it's got a wooden post and a long metal poker, a prod, and you poke these into the ground and you plug them in, and it electrifies the ground and it pops up all the worms, and you just pick worms, and you pick worms by their weight and by how many different bands they have on them, and then you take them to the worm place and you sell them by the pound.
I must have seen
That
this
was one of my jobs.
I must have seen this on a History Channel or some kind of a learning channel thing. But yeah, I think I'm getting
I'm
it
not
now.
afraid of squirmy like little bugs either. I'll track down frogs and chase my kids with them, and lizards. They love it. They love it.
Whereas my younger brother and I used to get frogs and go chase my mother around. That was the one animal she did not like. And we lived in the Everglades. So lots of frogs and snakes. Yeah. So
I don't like snakes.
But okay, so then you got out, man. So high school, you were at Wendy's. I'm a KFC man myself.
KFC.
I worked the drive-through, and I think at 16, I had some kind of a panic attack where I was like, I got to go sit down, and I had to go sit down for a good 20 minutes or half an hour working the drive-through. You got to give it up to those people that are working the drive-through. Did you ever have
especially when it was cold?
Oh. In Idaho. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, especially when it was cold in the wintertime.
Oh, no. Yeah, I can't handle those winters. Here in Arkansas, it was we had like about 3 days of 2 feet of snow, and we were losing our minds. There's only 4 snow plows in the whole city of Conway, and 3 of them broke.
Yeah, I live on the beach.
That's what I miss about Florida.
Yeah. When I graduated from high school in Idaho. I left Idaho immediately. I went back to Chicago, went down to Texas with some family, went back to Chicago. And I was in Chicago February of 94 when it was 80 below with the wind chill. I went outside with a partially wet head because you have to jumpstart your cars. It zaps the battery, the energy out of your car, and you have to jumpstart your car. And I went outside with a partially wet head to help my brother jumpstart my car, and my hair froze. And my brother flicked it, and it broke off, and that was it. I moved to Florida the next year. I was cold enough that my hair could freeze and break off. I was done.
No, 80 below is not a real...
I was in Florida in 95.
80 below is not a real temperature. It's a science project. No, thank you.
They shut down the Navy base because it was too cold for sailors to walk from building to building.
Yeah. It's too cold for anyone, any human being. No, and I'm glad you made it to Florida. So, well, when you got out of high school, did you go to college? Did you study
I did not go to college. It was go to work or go to school, and there was no money for school, and the independent financing rules were different in the 90s than they are now, and I went to work. Perfect. Found a temp agency, and they tested me and they sent me on job interviews, and I just got every job they sent me on an interview for, and I managed to always work in something that was related to computers or financial services and get promoted from within.
Yeah, you had that work experience from when you were a kid. You got to teach the kids from when they're young that money has value. This thing that I guess it's a made up thing, just like anything else, but it has value. You need to make your own money. You just can't go say, Mom, Dad, give me some money. No, you got to make your own money. If you want those nice shoes, those nice pants, that nice scarf, you got to do it yourself. And I begged my mom for $11 Converse, and she said, no, we're going to Winn-Dixie, where you're getting $1.98 Bobos. That's what. No.
I don't think children understand how good shoes are these days. I remember 8th grade spraining my ankle 3 times in 6 weeks because I had the cheapest, worst shoes on the planet, and my mother would not buy me high top tennis shoes, and I just kept playing on this rotten ankle. And now this ankle is a trick ankle that will give out on me whenever it wants, and often when I wear heels. It is not fair.
It's a conversation piece. It's something that you grew up with. It's a badge of honor.
I like to dance when my ankle will allow me.
Gotcha. Wrap it up and let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, so out of school, you went to work. What kind of any interesting jobs you have in your 20s?
Sure, in my 20s. I gravitated towards financial services, worked in accounting. I'm not sure it was ever really very fun or exciting. I did manage to land myself in a car collections job, collecting on defaulted car loans. And I learned very quickly that you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And I was known as a soft sell. Whenever somebody would tick off a customer and they wouldn't get that, when they wouldn't answer their phone or do anything or pay their bill, they would bring the loan to me, and I would call them and I would sweet talk them into paying me. Because one of the things that I believe in my life, it's not whether or not they have the money, it's whether or not you can separate them from it. Mm-hmm. And I, when money motivated, and they always gave out bonuses based on how well you collected your loan. So I learned to give good phone and get my money.
Yeah, when I first got to Arkansas, I worked in rent to own. So yeah, there was a little bit of collections there. Did you actually have to get on the streets and go break into their vehicles and take their cars back? That was a whole other team.
We're a bank, and there is a legal department that hires people who handle that. And I just answer the phone and take the money.
Oh, I hated having to go out and repo refrigerators and couches and televisions.
Yeah,
that was not a good time in my life. No.
No, after cars, I worked in mortgages, and they called us loan counselors. And I was actually collecting on defaulted mortgages during September 11th. Oh. And with the moratorium that followed September 11th, we weren't allowed to do any foreclosures on anybody's home for 9 months after that attack. And talking to those people as they were trying to manage their life, we had the gas spikes that took place during that time, which impacted a lot of truckers in our country. And I spent a lot of time on the phone with people who were really struggling, trying to figure out how they were going to pay their bills and keep their roof over their head. And your home, people don't get behind on their mortgage payment just because they got irresponsible one weekend. It is a qualifying event. Something serious happens, and the banks hire people to help you work through it. And the hardest part is just getting somebody on the phone, because there's always this idea that the evil, nasty bill collector and the banks hire loan counselors that they train to be, responsible and compassionate and sympathetic to your situation so that they can help you through it. And especially as we're moving into this new phase now where we're going to be dealing with modifications and foreclosures, it's my advice to work with your lender, because they have people there who are trained and ready to help you. And I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes together to help keep people in their homes.
Yeah, once again, you're giving people gems. As a homeowner myself, just recently, I was in apartments. Let's see, I bought a condo back in '87. And I lost that condo because I was too young to be buying a condo. I was a kid. And ever since then, I've been in apartments, my whole life. And I just bought a home and just moved into it last Saturday. So as a homeowner, you're like, you want to pay your bills. If you get behind, yes, you get a little embarrassed and you may not want to answer that phone, but you're letting people know, answer that phone, because the bank doesn't want to foreclose on you. Generally, it's not like the 1800s. Oh, you're coming to get my farm. No, they want you to own your home. They want to make arrangements to make those payments.
That's right.
These are gems. You're a source of information, Sharmin. So when did you figure out that you could write? Were you writing in high school or writing in school?
I had a couple of positive experiences. I had a fantastic English teacher in high school, Mrs. DeBoard. I remember I had a writing final that we had to do just before we graduated. And I was kind of a troubled student. And she was fantastic to me through all 4 years of high school. And there was my freshman year, I had this horrible babysitting job where I babysat children while their parents worked graveyard shift. It wasn't a choice, it was a requirement. My mother found this job for me for people that she works with. And it wasn't supposed to be as difficult as it was, but I ended up taking care of 2 small children all night long and not getting any sleep. And I ended up sleeping in my English class. And my English teacher came to me and said, "What's going on?" And it's a farm community, so kids working hard. is pretty common. And I explained my situation to her, and she said, as long as your work's done, you can sleep in my class. And that was our deal all year long. As long as my work was done, I just crashed in her class. And there was probably a lot of osmosis that took place through that. But I don't know how I would have gotten through that year if she hadn't have been so kind to me. But just before I graduated, I had my writing test. And as I finished it and she was grading it and I was leaving the room, she came up to me and she stopped me and she said, "Where did that come from?" And I was like, "It came from you and sleeping in your class."
Well, what was the subject matter of the writing assignment?
I don't even remember what it was, but she was really happy about it and she was really proud about it. And she pulled me aside and really, really boosted me for it. And one of the jobs that I had in my 30s, I ended up writing policies and procedures for Deutsche Bank when I worked for them. And they had a very interesting operation for the way they kept track of things. And I had an opportunity to really dive in and look around in their mortgage default area. Again, that was something that was really kind of a specialty for me, and write some policies and procedures for them. And you take some personal notes of the way some things were taking place. And I didn't really enjoy the subject matter that I was writing, but I found that I could write for long periods of time. And I had wanted to write a children's book that never really went anywhere. It still remains a series in my mind that I'm sure I will someday get around to. But when this idea for the book came to me, it was actually through a writing prompt. I had applied to Harvard's online extension program that they put out in 12. And they had you had to write an essay, you had to do a math test and answer, some tests to see if you can get in. And there was a writing prompt for an essay, and whatever their essay writing prompt was spurred the idea for the book. And then that turned into a joke for a year, right? This idea for the book was just a joke. And then when I decided on New Year's Eve 2014, my New Year's resolution, I was just going to write this book. I've been joking about this book for a year. I was just going to write this book. I was going to force myself to sit down to write for an hour a day, every day of 2014. I was writing this book. It was coming out of here. It was getting in here. That's all there was to it. And that was the most miserable writing I ever did. That hour a day for months was just like torture. It was awful. And I managed to, make myself do it several times a week. And I really didn't enjoy it at all. But there came a point where I hit a phase, a trance, where I just bled 300 pages in 2 weeks, and it all just flowed out of me. And when I snapped out of it, St. Louis was burning because Michael Brown had just been killed and Robin Williams had just committed suicide. And it was just the most depressing thing for me. I was so sad. Robin Williams was my fictional first dude. And so when he passed away, it just broke my heart. I bundled it up. I shipped it off to a publisher and grabbed my kids and jumped in the car and headed off to one of my girlfriend's house. Whenever things go bad, I land on her porch and we drink and eat for days, and it's fabulous.
Now, Mork and Mindy was a big part of my life as well. But you've given the process. It's so amazing how people write books, but you sat yourself down for an hour a day and just start scribbling. Okay, but do you do it on computer, on keyboard, or do you do it longhand?
I do it on my computer. I type really fast, and when I hit a flow for something, there's just no stopping me. And I can't go anywhere near as quick with handwriting, and then I just have to transpose it into typing anyway. So, but yeah. That's
one class that I wish I would have taken in high school was typing. And you, in your 20s, you were doing a temp agency and going to several places. I'm sure typing came in handy. I mean, I'm a two-finger typer. I know where the letters are, but I'm two fingers.
One of the things I had to learn in high school was typing on an old typewriter, right? Like the original ASDF JKL : right? Like I still imagine I'm typing on a typewriter sometimes.
Yeah. So continue with your process. You ended up on your girlfriend's porch, and because of the things that were happening in the news in St. Louis and Robin Williams, of course. But where did you go from there?
We drank and sailed on our boat for the weekend, and I came back. By the time I came back from her house, within a week, I had an offer from a publisher offering to publish my book, but they wanted a whole year to publish it, and I didn't like that timeline. I was I felt very pressured for it to be done by the end of the year, beginning of January, and there was no way to marry up the timeline. At the time, my spouse worked for Amazon, and CreateSpace was a really big thing. They were pushing for the Amazon families to participate in one of their new platforms, and I made the decision to self-publish through CreateSpace, and that was a really easy, simple process. I got to have it done a full 6 months before Trump announced his campaign. Any similarities between my book and actual events were unplanned and simply improved the readability of the story.
Yeah,
weird.
These little hints into your book are giving people an inkling, a desire to read this thing. Really? Was it prophetic? Are you a prophet, Eslynne?
I don't. That's not a title I want. Really, that's kind of a scary one right there. I have had a reputation for knowing things I couldn't possibly know for many years. It's always been a joke thing we always laughed about. When the $1 billion Powerball came up a couple of years ago, I was absolutely sure that was for me. I knew that $1 billion Powerball was for me more than anything. I manifested up my numbers. I was so confident and cocky about it. And then when the numbers hit, I picked the numbers right next to the winning number. Except for one number, I had them transposed. It was like 24 and I had 42 or something like that. It was awful. It was awful. I was sure that was for me, and I'm close. I'm not accurate, but I'm close, and it's just a little creepy sometimes.
Just like the Bears, this close.
So close.
Missed it by that much. Man, you could have written for The Simpsons, because I think they had a few of those Simpsons got it before it actually happened. They might have predicted President Trump's.
I was looking for Lisa all last year. Where was Lisa? We needed Lisa.
Oh,
there was the episode where Trump died, right? And then they just made Lisa president. Like, where's Lisa?
Okay. See, I didn't remember that part. You're more in the pop culture than I am.
I had to check that one out. I wanted to see what The Simpsons wrote about that.
Okay. Now, you say you have a daily dose of politics. What is that about?
I don't think I can avoid it. Do you? I maybe sometimes I can get through a day without it, but I don't think I can avoid it at this point. Can you? I don't.
I'm familiar with politics. I mean, I take care of my front porch, the area that I can see, that I survey. But I don't, man, I know that the people on the far right and the people on the far left are causing all these problems. Come on down the middle with most of us.
That's my story. I say that I'm too liberal for my conservative friends and too conservative for my liberal friends. I'm swinging straight up the middle. Ain't nobody pitching to me. I got a ball and I'm playing by myself. Come play with me.
Yeah, it's funny. I get conservatives that say I'm liberal, and then liberals that say I'm conservative. And nobody is one thing. I can't believe everything that the Republicans want me to believe, and I can't believe everything the Democrats want me to believe. So politically, I know that the higher ups don't care about us little guys. Maybe your local, politicians, the mayor down, local council. That's the place where the school board. Where do you stand? With how to vote? Are those more important or as important as voting for your U.S. senators and such?
They're equally as important. In some ways, more important because you have more frequent local elections than you do the big nationwide elections. You could have dozens of little elections all year long and not even know about it. And you could be missing the opportunity to really put somebody good in place. Like there's a bunch of stuff going on locally all the time, and it's changing quicker and quicker. And we can't have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people unless the people participate in the process. And, now there's a lot of change taking place, and it's a lot of change for the good. Everything happens for a reason, and some of it's good and some of it's bad, and we get through it all as best we can. But I think that there's a lot of good stuff still coming for us, but there's still a lot of hard work, because it is the local, right? There's so much going on locally, and it expands out. It's not just your city, it's your state. And then we need more people to participate for sure. We need everybody to make sure that they're registered to vote so that they can vote. However you vote, whatever it is, make sure you take advantage of I like the mail-in voting, because you can Google who's running and see what they're interested in, where they stand, if you like the way they stand, before you pick them. How many times did we vote through the years and we walked into the voting booth and we had no idea who these people were? We had no idea what they stood for. And now we have the Oracle. That's what I call the phone, the Oracle. You just type in your question into the Oracle, and you can get almost any piece of information you want, right? And we have good quality elections that I think are safe and fair, and managed by responsible adults who care about making sure they get it right? And now we have a lot of good options, and as long as we get more people with the process running, we have a really good system. It's just only as good as the people who run it, and that means more of us have to step up in the process.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast that I heard. The phone. Do you need to go to college anymore if you got Google in your hands?
There's a couple of different colleges who've put out free online curriculum so that you can get your education and not cost you tens of thousands of dollars. The college education, the way everything is going to change. The pandemic has given us a lot of freedom that we didn't realize we were missing. People are embracing the work-life balance because they don't want to work 60 hours a week. And we're starting to have conversations about all these labor laws from 100 years ago that got us the 40-hour work week in the first place. Like, how come we can't live off of this 40-hour week? What's going on? How do we get back to 40 hours?
Yeah, I definitely can't. I have a 40-hour job, and then I have the DJ jobs at night. So, that's my extra cheese. The 40-hour job pays my regular bills, but then the extra cheese. I every time I think, well, you're 52 years old. Should you give up DJing? And then I go do a party and everything's great. So I have a good time. But you were talking about elections. They're happening all the time. I was 45 minutes away in Russellville, Arkansas, and there were people holding up signs, vote here for this particular person. I think it was Holly something. And I went, there's an election today? Really?
Yeah.
There's elections all the time.
All the time.
And I think about, just the broad strokes politically. I don't need free health care. I don't need free school. I need affordable school. I need affordable health care. I don't mind working and paying a couple of bucks here. But when they start, charging, I think the government overreached. And this is stuff that's been in my head. It might have been when the New Deal came out and they started subsidizing. Hey, we'll subsidize your school. And then the school started, their prices went through the roof. And then they did the same thing for healthcare. Might have been, the other way around, the healthcare first and then school. And then healthcare started going through the roof because the government would, we'll subsidize that for you. And then these people can charge exorbitant prices. When not even great grandpa could work a part-time job and work his way through college and make a decent living. And have his college paid for by the time he was done. What do you think? Do you think free health care is the way to go, or all the handouts and such? I know I might be getting deep on this one, but I wanted to know your opinion on things.
Well, because it comes down to a form of perspective, right? Like you have your paycheck and you have your taxes that get taken out of every one of your paycheck. You have your federal, you have your Medicare, right? It all comes out of your paycheck, right? I personally believe really strongly that if you're going to take this Medicare payment out of my taxes, I should be able to use that right now. I'm really funny about my money, and there's a 1.85% requirement on my money that you take away from me and tell me I can't use that money until I turn how old? 70? Neither one of my parents lived till 60. I need that money now. I need health care now. And maybe that system worked just fine 50 or 60 years ago when we were setting up the insurance industry. But the way insurance exchanges work now, if you're going to take several $100s a month out of my pocket, then I should have health insurance right now. And it's definitely not free. It's definitely not a handout, because they already took their handout of my pocket and took my money. And I want to use that health insurance right now. I want to lift the cap on the wages. Right now, we stop collecting it from people at like $120,000. So if you're making $300,000 a year, you're only paying Medicare tax on that first 135,000.
Oh yeah.
Right? Right? So
Yeah, I mean,
we're
if
going
we're
to tax the rest of it
yeah,
all the way up to and remove the income tax and make that available, the income limit, and make that available for people now. That's how I see that working. I think Medicare for all gets a bad rap because I don't think people are connecting that dot right there. I think that people are thinking some free thing's just going to fall out of the sky somewhere. Nobody knows where it's coming from. Meanwhile, this 1.85% over here that you're already paying, that's the free we're talking about right there.
yeah,
We want to play with that.
that takes care of the people that are working for a living. Hey, I work my butt off. You know, you work for a living, but the people that don't work or can't work, how do we take care of them?
We got to figure out how do we take care of them, right? We got to bring back jobs, and we got to do something about wages. We're pricing people out of living, and we're sending our jobs to countries where they don't have better education systems. They're not more technically savvy or skilled labor than we are. We're just shipping our jobs to countries where people don't have the right to complain about low wages, and where they can be treated like slaves, because that's exactly what it is. We've outlawed slavery in our country, but we haven't stopped our greedy businessmen from going to another country and treating the other people badly. Until we fight for a raised standard of living for people all over the planet, we're going to continue to have the same problem.
Well, you were an Amazon family, and I've heard things that I didn't like, that Bezos and Amazon didn't pay a lot of taxes, until 2018 or 19. Then they started paying $1 million, which is like a drop in a bucket for them.
Nothing.
Really
Nothing.
not much. And then Apple, I heard, was doing it all right. They were paying their 40%, their fair share. And I heard these things. It could be all hearsay. I may be wrong, but I want everybody to pay their fair share. And
I'm a
I see
big
your
fan
point.
of the flat tax with no write-offs or no deductions. The math just doesn't work for me. And some people can figure out how to trick the system. So not only are they not paying anything, they're cashing out on the rest of us. And that's just not working, right? We got roads that need to be fixed. We got schools that need to be done. We got kids that need to be educated. We got stuff. That's what this money's for. 10% for everybody. Tax the churches, right? Tax the churches. Tax all the businesses. Corporations are people. We all pay the same percentage across the board. It's the only way to make it work, right? If one person can get over on somebody else, we're all going to be mad about it, right? The thing is that, the right wing can't destroy the left wing. We're the same bird, right? We all want the same thing across the board. Give me my health care. Give me my money. You're going to take from me, then you're going to give me something in return, right? This is a mutually beneficial relationship. You got work that needs to be done. I need money in my pocket. You got stuff to sell. I like to buy stuff. Right, it's a mutually beneficial relationship, and we have missed some of the conversation. Right, there's a flow right? It's reciprocal. It goes back and forth. It works around. And we use big fancy words like income fluidity, right? The way the money flows throughout the economy and everybody gets a share out of it. I used a Duck Dynasty reference in my book to explain the importance of income fluidity and how it works within our society and how it messes things up.
I try to stay even-handed, and I hear people want to tax the corporations even more, but there's a guy that owns the corporation, such as Jeff Bezos. If he's paying personal taxes, should he pay corporate taxes as well? Are we charging him twice? That's the argument on that side of the
salary. How's he doing his tax filing? We got a bunch of questions here to ask.
On that side of the aisle.
It could be a lot easier, right? You're a salaried employee, you pay 10%, right? Your business takes in this money, they pay 10%, right? It could be a lot easier, but right now it's so convoluted.
I always thought the IRS was kind of funny. They know how much we owe, but they make us guess every year. I have an accountant that I pay so much money to. Why? If the IRS knows, hey, you owe this much money. Here, give me a postcard. Oh, I owe you this much money. Okay, here's a check. There you go. Oh, you owe me this much money. Now, the IRS knows how much we owe. And if you ask them, no, we're not telling you. You have to guess. You were right about the flat tax.
But how do they know unless you tell them how much you make? Right? There's a lot of people making money they're not reporting. It's been going on a long time. People are making money they're not reporting.
Who does that?
I have heard stories.
The crazy talk that's coming through this microphone.
Right.
Prank call.
It does happen, right? And it's so complicated the way the systems are set up. You can start a small business, a small family business. You put a couple people to work. Before you know it, you got to file forms. You got to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Right? There's quarterly things that must be done. And if you miss one or two, before you know it, you're looking down a really scary situation that you're afraid of, and you find yourself in trouble, right? We have a lot of people who are struggling because the tax laws are so complicated. And we have a lot of people who have figured out how to trick the system to make more money off their tax write-offs than they're making.
Yeah, every year I hear about closing loopholes or opening loopholes. You got a loophole. Yeah, the taxes for 38% across the board, or 14%, or whatever percentage it is. But there's a loophole.
If you file this form, you can write off a $120,000 vehicle every year. Put your wife in a brand new Range Rover every year. It's a tax write-off.
Yeah, and I've also heard
that's
things.
That's a tax write-off?
Absolutely. And every time I hear about,
that's not how that works.
I hear about
have to go bye-bye.
Settlements. We had a settlement for $1 million, but we wrote it off the next year. So you really didn't lose that money.
So one of the things that always irritated me, especially after the financial collapse of 2008, when the mortgage companies and banks were writing off so many millions of dollars in bad debt, they didn't push that write-off through to the borrowers.
Right.
Those borrowers still have all those debts still sitting on their credit, even though the bank got to take a huge tax write-off and we all got to feel that pain through our collective taxes. There's a lot of dots that don't get connected and things that don't get drawn through.
You mean we're not going to solve all these problems in this podcast today?
No, not today. Not today.
Okay. Do you consider yourself a Tida? Is it Tida?
A Tida.
Tida? Do you consider?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm a Tida for sure.
Untamable?
Untamable.
Okay.
Now, I wouldn't even try.
My mom is a survivor as well. My grandfather succumbed to cancer. Now, whenever somebody says they're a survivor, it's always cancer. Is it always cancer?
I'm a sexual assault survivor.
There. Now, that's another survivor. Okay.
I lost my parents to cancer, my sister, my brother, my nephew has it now. There's a large cancer presence in my family, probably because of where my mother was born.
Now, you put yourself out there as a survivor. Have you given talks, or do you
Sure.
Advocate? Who have you helped, and how can people get you to talk for them?
Well, you can find me through SharminSmith.com. You can find me on all the social media platforms. If you're looking for me and you type in Sharmin Smith and you don't find me, you've done something wrong. I'm pretty easy to find. I am an advocate for ending childhood sexual abuse whenever possible. An adult survivor. I do support the death penalty for pedophiles. I know the death penalty is a difficult topic of conversation. I don't support another execution until a full audit of the justice system has been done. We have people who are illegally in prison when they are innocent, and we have a problem there that has to be corrected. I don't think there should be any more executions until that is done. But I do fully support the death penalty for pedophiles, violent rapists, violent murderers.
Well, you're this close to the problem. If it happened
Right.
to you, was it somebody that you knew?
Yes.
Do you speak about it in a blog, or do you put it? Did you put that in a book?
I put it in my book. I speak about it on my blog. I speak about it on a lot of different podcasts. I've done a lot of different podcasts through the years. Blogging's not my favorite thing, but I enjoy the podcast. I'm actually a regular on a podcast each week. The girl who does the podcast, it's called it's the cutest thing. It's called Kermit and Friends. She started the show off the love of her dog Kermit, who died during the lockdown, and she lost him, and she was just so sad and heartbroken, and she missed him, and so Kermit is in heaven with God now, and we are all here for the love of Kermit the dog. She has started a new church. It is the Kermitarian Church. Andy Dick is ordained as a minister, and every once in a while he shows up and gives us blessings. He proposed to her. They're engaged. It's this on again, off again Hollywood drama. It's the cutest thing, but there's some serious stuff in there. She has some real guests that have been on there who have some trouble, and of course I talk about my survivor status and my campaign, and I talk about my book, and I try to talk about important topics like grooming, pointing it out at different times. We talk about narcissism and how you can prepare yourself for reactive abuse, because people are going to do things just to get you to react, and so it's a really cute show. I really enjoy it a lot. I never know what is going to happen on that show next. I make myself a very tall Bloody Mary before I sit down for church on Sunday afternoon. I'm waiting for blessings from Reverend Dick. You just never know what's going to happen.
Well, that sounds like a fantastically fun time. Kermit and Friends. See, I listen to podcasts at least 8 hours a day. I drive around Arkansas, and I put a Bluetooth in my ear, so I'm listening to podcasts. I'll definitely put that one in my feed. And you're on there quite often, you say?
Yes, I've been on there almost every week since the end of February.
Well, super fantastic. See, it's good to give credit where credit is due, give shout outs to people. I use this, I've been in radio since 86. So, it's always promoting people. Yeah, you make a couple bucks here and there, but mostly it's promoting people and being a part of the community. And I believe the whole world is a community, and we all got to help each other, to get through this crazy
yeah,
train.
whatever this is.
Whatever this is. What other avenues do you want to explore as we wind this thing down, I guess? And I don't want this to be the last time we talk. You're a very interesting person.
Not.
No, but
thank you. I actually have one of the things that I do, I tripped across this guy, because when I started getting interested in politics and putting myself out there, one of the things that I realized with so much corporate experience is I didn't have a lot of experience with small business owners. And that is such a big topic of conversation, especially for politicians. And I crossed paths with this man. It is his niche where he knows all of the tax credits for your utility bills. Like, he makes it his job to know every single tax credit and way to save money on your utility bills. He does a free audit for you and your business. He gets big wins on breweries, bakeries, anybody who puts things together and makes something. There's some special tax credit for combining stuff.
Man, I've been an S corp for.
If you're making hand sanitizers or masks during the pandemic, this guy can probably help you. And he likes big accounts, he likes little accounts, and I find it fascinating because I cross paths with different people all the time, and I find it fascinating to see who is missing something, and because your utilities are federally regulated, when you point out this tax credit that you're eligible for to your utility company, they have to give 4 years worth of a refund. So that's where the money is in the refund. He helps you find money and he helps you save money. And he's actually, that's one of the more favorite things that I do.
Well, ever since I incorporated, I've never had to pay taxes because I think everybody should be incorporated. If you're going to have any kind of a business, I have an S corp since 2004. I wish I'd have done it back in '86 when I started doing, the DJ stuff and the radio stuff and any other enterprising events that I was doing. But are you incorporated yourself?
I am not actually. I know I have a weird situation. I don't have anything fancy like you. I need to get on top of it, especially after I learned about the S Corp write-off for the heavyweight utility vehicles, the $120,000 a year write-off so I could get a brand new Range Rover every year. After I heard that, I was like, I should probably do this thing.
Well, it's probably gone now because, growing up, I always heard the Republicans are for the businesses and then the Democrats are generally for the people. And that's how I grew up in the 70s.
Yeah, that's how I grew up too.
And then I think about, when Trump gave the relief, it was mostly PPP for the businesses. And then when Biden gave the relief, it was a check straight to you. So
straight to people.
Kind of, you're still getting the money. That's
always the way it was when we were kids. And I married Republicans twice. Both times I married as a Democrat, I married Republicans. And I enjoyed debate. I like a challenge. I don't know what to say. But they were always more professional and polite and respectful. And I always had really interesting dynamic conversations with Republicans. It always seemed to me like they liked smart, intelligent women. I was always something I enjoyed, and that is something that has disappeared in the last couple of years. And it is part of the loss of the Republican reputation that I miss the most.
Well, I've had a blast chit-chatting with you this past hour or so. You say Sharmin Smith is the way to go, sharminsmith.com. Does that have all your social media as well?
Absolutely. And go to Amazon and buy my book.
You better believe it. Yeah, and are you a big Twitter advocate? Where's your main social media when you're putting it out there every day?
I'm on Facebook, and I do have an Instagram presence, but I really do not enjoy Instagram. I know that's just probably me, but I'm starting to use Twitter more often. I have used Twitter more in the last couple of months than I have really in the last couple of years, but it's become more fun for me. I really am looking forward to it.
Well, I'll definitely put all your socials and your website on the show notes for sure, so people know how to get a hold of you and get a hold of that book. And man, you've made it. You've given so many hints that's making it very compelling that people need to read this book because it was probably a prophecy of sorts. And go ahead.
The book spans 40 years, and really the only first 6 years are done. And the climate change chapter was scary. Climate change chapter was creepy for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
The climate change chapter was creepy.
Now I have to get a hold of this book. And I have to figure it out. But so, what's on the horizon for Sharmin Smith?
Some more books. Maybe another run for office. Who knows what'll happen?
Another? Wait, we didn't talk about the first one. Another run?
Who knows what the future.
Uh-oh. You cut out for a second. Wait, you ran for office before?
I did. I did a little run for office. It didn't get very far. I hired the wrong people and caused some drama in my life. So that's another podcast in itself.
No worries. I mean, somebody who,
Yeah.
it's funny, or not funny, haha, but funny, strange, and funny, interesting how people go in with the best of intentions. They go into politics. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to make a difference. And then they get corrupted more. It just seems that way.
Somebody gets information on your family. They use it against you. It's like, I jumped into something I couldn't have possibly anticipated and hired some nightmares, probably opposition research. Politics is a dirty game, and you don't know where you're going to get it from. You think everybody in your circle you can trust. And I worked in enough good, always pick people. So it surprised me when I hired people who were bad.
Oh, well, it looks like the gods of politics are starting to cut us out. Our internet connection, either on my side or your side, is starting to fade away. So let's wind this thing down.
Absolutely.
Any shout outs you want to give to some people that have helped you along the way?
Katrina, I really appreciate her with her marketing that she does for me. My kids, I love them and adore them more than anything, right? There's so much fun there. And then Kerman Friends, come see Kerman Friends Sunday afternoon, 2:00 Eastern time. Who knows what'll be there this week. I think next week we have a boxer coming on next week. He's got a Rocky Balboa story.
I like a good pugilist. I boxed at Candyman's gym in Orlando, Florida. Candyman's on Church Street. All right. I usually finish these things off with last words for the people. Now, this could be words to live by, something you heard a long, long time ago, or maybe a mantra that you wake up with every morning, or just whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Sharmin Eslynne Smith, last words for the people.
Oh, last words for the people. You just try to be happy and enjoy yourself as much as you can. Stop and smell the roses. Don't let too much get to you, and just try to tap in, tune in, turn on to the flow, and go wherever the universe takes you. Sometimes a crazy idea will be the best time of your life.
Well, there you have it, party people. Sharmin Eslynne Smith. Look for her. Get that book, Taming the Tida. Tida? Tida. Tuda? No. Tida. T-I-D-A. Tida. Tida. That's right. Taming the Tida. I was messing that up the whole podcast. But you know me. Mumble mouth. Slurring words. Been doing this so long, I don't know what to do. I talk into microphones, and I talk to people into microphones. I'm so glad I had Sharmin Smith on the podcast today. That was so cool. Man, and I know we only scratched the surface of Sharmin Smith. Got a little idea of who she is, and I hope she sells lots of books. And I'm pretty sure I will find that book, and I will read that book because I want to know. It was very compelling. She's an interesting lady, and I want to know what she writes about, what she wrote about. and from what she said, it sounds like it's very prophesizing over the things that happened over the last 4 years. Interesting times we're living in. I hope you're doing all right. Yes, you. Hey, now if you would like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email info@radiowhat.com. Thank you, Sharmin Smith, for being on the program. What Makes You Famous? That's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. It's KeysDAN, radiowhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.